A while ago, a bunch of friends got me into the Xenoblade series. It is basically a JRPG with a bunch of mechanics that don't look good on surface level digging, but it has a really cool story made by Nintendo and Monolith Soft. It is a series that not many people know much about because, unfortunately, there's not many people who know Shulk outside of Smash Bros. This game is by far the weakest in the franchise, in my opinion, and I'm sure that this is just a me thing. There was a massive reason why I was hesitant to push this out initially. I just didn't like it. I just thought it was half of what it could have been, but sadly wasn't. I'm probably the only one who feels this way, since this review is going to contradict most people's opinions about this game itself. In this video, I will be talking about Torna Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC. For these reasons, it will be hard not to spoil certain elements of Xenoblade, but I'm not going to put any spoilers in this for a reason. Just most of the game is just side quest, and I just didn't really care for it too much. This DLC is best played after Chapter 7 and before Chapter 8 in Xenoblade 2. If you're playing both at the same time because of continuity. I was wrong though in my Xenoblade 2 video about these games being somewhat sequential. They aren't, but it is definitely much funner to play them through order because of nostalgia. The DLC does give you quality of life improvements in Xenoblade 2 that I guess are good, but I don't think that should be the only reason why you buy Torna. I regret saying that in my Xenoblade 2 video that the Torna DLC made up for itself with just added content in Xenoblade 2, since I just don't currently hold that opinion anymore. This game just wasn't as good as I thought it was. This game is the worst thing I've played in Xenoblade so far. I have played Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade 2, and parts of Xenoblade 3. Outside of beating this entire game, Future Connected would have been good if it was a lot longer and contributed more. This game had about the same length of Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 if you didn't fast forward by button mashing side quest. I button mashed because I did not like how the story was being told, and I did not like the overall experience, so I just button mashed. I probably would have liked it more if I didn't. I just didn't do it. I think the main reason I hated this game is the way the story was being told. It reminded me of everything I hate about modern Pokemon games. They tell you a story versus showing you the story. The whole game was primarily told through written dialogue for a Xenoblade game that was hyped up to have really good voice acting. I just didn't like that. In older Pokemon games, I have grown to expect this. Since hardware limitations do exist, this game presents itself as being an entire game as a DLC, and I didn't really agree with that reason at all. I genuinely did feel disappointed, and I'm sure I might have felt differently if I didn't button mash, but I didn't care since I thought it was genuinely annoying. This game series also made me realize in the process of writing this script why people hate on Xenoblade so much. Imagine spending half an entire game just learning brand new mechanics and struggling like all heck like you wouldn't believe. I personally enjoy it, but this game series is so boring up until you reach the point where it starts to explain itself better, and that just doesn't happen until near the end. You will enjoy this game series, but it is a turning off point, I feel like, for most people. Not to mention the auto attacks aren't something you typically see in video games. You see them more in mobile gacha-like games, and I just don't think that's what this game is. It's misleading, and I understand why they did it. It was implemented well, but you can understand when people first start to play this game, they see that and they get turned off. This gets even worse where the tutorial system was the same one from Xenoblade 2. If you never learned how to play Xenoblade 2, you will need to learn how to find out how to play this game. The tutorial system was dealt a lot better though in this game, just because of how simple the mechanics were. For a Xenoblade game, this is by far the easiest to wrap your brain around mechanics-wise. Just gotta learn them. Torna DLC is a prequel to Xenoblade 2 by 500 years. It explains how Torna came to be, touches upon the Aegises from Xenoblade 2. It includes Jin, Laura, Adam, and other characters that were touched upon briefly in Xenoblade 2 or extensively, like in the case of Jin. Xenoblade Torna's story did not know how to end itself without crashing very hard. I liked it. I liked the writing, but the ending did not land itself properly, and I just felt disappointed in the end. The DLC focuses mostly on the intrepid character Laura and her blade Jin. As explained previously in my other video, blades are characters born from core crystals. Core crystals are crystals activated by humans that are also drivers. Drivers are humans with the ability to open core crystals. Not all humans are drivers though because of genetics. Blades are not entirely human, but they have human powers that can aid humanity. Humans and blades tend to be synonymous with each other. Blades lose a lot of their strength if they step too far away from their driver. If a driver dies, so does the blade. The blade returns to its core crystal to be picked up by another driver and will lose all memories of their previous life. Blades tend to try their best to remember who they are for these reasons. They have journals to keep in touch with themselves. The only exception to this though is Mizuchi. Mizuchi created all humanity and I love him for it. The mechanics were almost the same in Xenoblade 2, where you have blade combos, ball-based attacks, and flick stick motions to keep it faster paced. Because of the flick stick motions, it is honestly a lot faster than any other Xenoblade so far in my opinion. In my opinion, this did make it a much better game, but Xenoblade 2 had similar mechanics and I felt like it was dealt with better. The blade combo chart was removed in this game. The chart in Xenoblade 2 was a chart for certain moves you can do at any moment in combination with each other. Because of the limited blade selection and the fact there were not many characters to play as, they did remove it. Despite this, the combat is still well balanced. Blade type combos aren't as important in this game as they are in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for these reasons. This game heavily focuses on switching out drivers and blade in combination with each other. This doesn't just heal your team, it also gives you the ability to do damage during the switch in and out. Switching is a new mechanic in this game that is easily one of the coolest mechanics. It makes it more balanced, surprisingly, despite this being a very difficult mechanic to get done right. It also explained that everyone is super curious on how Laura is able to switch so well with Jin simultaneously. This is because the writers are trying to make blade and driver relationships more relevant than the previous for reasons that are related to plot and mechanics. Not that it is really all that practical of a thing to do outside of this game, but that's anime logic. Speaking of teamwork, on to today's sponsor. In the 1980s, a couple of businessmen launched a venture known as Malotonic. It is a beautiful mixture of all the ingredients that are needed to create a good fanfiction artist. Unfortunately, they did have to shut down production rather quickly, but they tried to bring it back in 2003, but the PR stunt for that was really unsuccessful. This brings us to Boston, where they have since then expanded into manufacturing donuts. You can get a cream-filled donut today in only Massachusetts. If you apply in the comment section with Malos and Gin Forever, I can hook you up with a free donut near you, but only for 5% off. Enjoy, and back to our normal program. Drivers in this game function very similar to blades. They have their own typings, and they're just a lot more useful. They also removed roles in this game. The reason they did that is because there's only 3 main drivers and they need people to be more multi-role. If they had roles like healers, medics, attackers, stuff like that, it just wouldn't have been very easy of a game to play. I think the main reason why I didn't like the mechanics of this game as much as I could have is because when I play video games, I like to strategize. The reason why I like Xenoblade 2 so much is they had a lot of blades, a lot of very different strats you could have gone for. This just wasn't the case with this game because everything's so multi-role and simplified because they removed the type charting. I just didn't like strategizing in it. You just couldn't do it. Hence why I love competitive Pokemon. I'm literally the team building guru. The story was short, but overall good. Pretty much almost all the game was not voice acted, as previously mentioned. It was all done through side quest. For that reason, I just rushed right through it. I didn't even want to play this. The game is mostly side quest. For this reason, they did have a mechanic called the Community tab, which, in my opinion, did not even need to exist. They could have just merged it into the quest log. And for some reason, they didn't even think to do that. So, as you're sitting there reading through the quest log, you have to sit there and move over to the Community tab. Remember the information you just absorbed in the quest log, which is, by the way, a lot of information. You have to translate that over to the Community tab. Don't forget it. Go back to the quest log, activate your quest, and just go forward with that. Like, why couldn't they just had a community level inside the quest log? They could have just had a box with people who have active quests that you can do. I just don't get that. They could have just simplified that in any way possible, but they didn't. Because of the menu lag, this was a lot worse than it needed to be. The menus lag a lot. Like, as you're sitting there shuffling through them, it's just slow. It's very annoying. Every single time you complete a side quest or talk to somebody who has a quest, one of the things they do is they have the Community tab appear. You don't even need that. That's super annoying. You could just sit there, check it out when you want to, and they made it very hard to disable. And I don't think they did this entirely intentional, because there is a way you can disable it. If you go into the menu, there is a way you can disable it past a certain point, but they don't let you do this immediately, and I don't understand why. It's very strange. The reason they did this is because Adam, according to Xenoblade 2, him and his group of friends did a lot of things to help people during this time period. They had a loyal group of followers that they did favors for, and they could have done this in any other way. Like, they could have had it story-driven. They could have had it so it's not entirely through side quest, but they didn't. And that just genuinely annoyed me. There were 2 side quests I did enjoy. The Leo side quest line and the Lydia side quest line. They were absolutely brilliant side quests. I was dying from laughter unexpectedly when I did encounter these. There weren't really any other side quests that stood out to me. All the other ones, in my opinion, were just approximately the same, just slightly better than any other Xenoblade game. Not to mention, this is important for character development. The fact I mashed the buttons is not a good thing. They could have just sat there, had different voice actors from each of the main cast, voiced the side characters. It wouldn't have been that hard. They could have made it interesting. They could have got creative. They didn't. And that just genuinely frustrated me, like beyond grief. Like voice actors like Jim Cummings, they could have just had come aboard him voice like almost all the other characters, like somebody just talented at coming up with impressions. They didn't, and it drove me insane. The map in this game has icons for pretty much everything. It is a bar across the screen to show you what direction you need to go in, similar to Skyrim. In my opinion, they need to make one crucial change to make this a much better mechanic. As I previously mentioned, all of this game is just side quest. They needed different icons for active and inactive side quest. The fact they didn't do that literally made this finding which side quest you were currently doing very difficult. I think they could have maybe worked with this, had fun. Like, for example, the 4 Nopon tier quest, they could have just sat there and just intentionally removed it as part of the story. So you had to sit there and intentionally look across the map to find these other characters as part of this quest, and that would have made the game a lot more interesting. Especially where the map in this game is significantly smaller than any other Xenoblade game. I've never played a Xenoblade game so far with such a ridiculously small map. The map only takes place in 2 areas. There is Gormod and Torna. That is it. That is the only areas you get access to, and I felt like that was very half. That was very half. Hugo, Laura, and Adam are the 3 new characters that were not touched much upon in Xenoblade 2. Hugo is the Emperor of Morardain. Unlike most politicians, he actually has a meaningful life of some kind. He is friends with Adam and chooses to help him out on his quest to assist with other people. Him and Bridget and Aegeon are together. Bridget and Aegeon are obviously his blades, as mentioned in Xenoblade 2. Laura is the new addiction I have. She is Jin's driver. She's a very kind person and the addictive love interest of Jin himself. She is what the story primarily focuses around and is the main character of the story, in my opinion. Despite Adam being so young and very unlikely to do anything that is super mundane, he is more popular than anyone else is in Torna royal family. This is only because he does not do things that are just political. He has a life that is literally not limited to politics. Having good friends like Laura, Hugo, and all these other people helped him immensely. He wants to defeat Malos and live an isolated life, but he needs to defeat Malos in order to do so first. He is also responsible for saving a Gormadi child named Milton. Milton is a main side character that exists throughout the story. Mithra is there, and her personality is like a mean girl with a social media account that has a gun attached to it. She's a simpleton that is not fully fleshed out, like what needed to happen at the end of the story as explained in Xenoblade 2. Not to mention, everyone is under constant scrutiny to avoid her cooking. Milton has pointed out in the story that her cooking is terrible. I also don't understand her character and why it was so different than what I was expecting. Adam was her driver, and because of a certain plot point in Xenoblade 2, I feel like that's just a plot hole, but what would I know? Bridget is the ultimate Dommy Mommy character, and Aegeon is her daddy. They both don't need much explaining. They were both there in Xenoblade 2, if you want to watch my Xenoblade 2 review video. I spent the first half of this game mostly focusing on Laura, but once the whole party got formed, I started experimenting with the other mains. I started playing as Adam at first, but I didn't like him very much. Hugo made me tremble with excitement. I was so happy, I loved his character, but you're probably going to ask why I mostly mained as him. The reason I mostly mained as him is because of Rex from Xenoblade 2. I mostly played as Rex from Xenoblade 2 because Rex had Mithra and Pyra, and it was hard to ignore him. Like, his AI just isn't that smart. It made more sense to play with him than just to leave him alone, so I never really switched a whole lot away from Rex. when I did Xenoblade 2, but I did across several points, as mentioned in the video. This game was disappointing, but I did skip a lot of character dialogue. There just wasn't that much positive things I felt like I could have said, and I'm sorry if this came across as too negative. That wasn't my intent. I just didn't really enjoy this. I don't like reading lots of character dialogue. I've literally played every single Pokemon game up until shortly before the latest generation. I got Legend ZA. I played it partially. I didn't really like it for the same reasons I've literally just stated. Legend ZA is a much worse game in my opinion, but this definitely needed some growing to do, and it sounds like they did accomplish that with Xenoblade 3. I'm loving Xenoblade 3. So far, the mechanics are arguably better in Xenoblade 3 than they are in literally any other Xenoblade game. It's a much more complicated mechanical system, and I'm just loving it so far. I don't fully know if I love it more than 2, but I'll reach that bridge when I get there. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Wind goes passing by through the sun.